Hi, I'm Nick Gadd. I'm the Communications Manager of the Victorian Law Reform Commission, the VLRC, which is an independent state government agency that gives advice to the state government about reforming laws in this state. And the VLRC plays an important role because what we do is help make sure that laws are up to date, practical and fair, and work well for the people of the state. Now, we don't have the power to change the law ourselves because only Parliament can do that. What we do is we provide advice to the government on how laws should change. And we get our inquiries from two places. The Attorney General can ask the VLRC to look at a particular area of law and recommend changes to it. Or we can choose to look at an area of law that affects the community, and we can then make some recommendations related to that. And we call those community law reform projects. So there are those two ways that an inquiry can start. The reasons why laws might need to change is they may be out of date. People's social values may have changed. The law may be too confusing or too complex, or the law may just not be working well in some way. And in those situations, the VLRC can look at that area of law, and we do a lot of consulting with the community. We do a lot of research, and then our team makes some recommendations about how the law can change. It's then up to the government to decide whether they take our advice or not. We don't have the power to change the law. As I said, it's up to the government. But the VLRC is an influential body, and about 75% of the time, our recommendations are acted on. Now, this is just a really short introduction to the VLRC, but I will give you an example of one of our reports, which is actually the most up-to-date. In fact, it's just been tabled in Parliament today in November 2021. And this is our inquiry into improving the response of the justice system to sexual offences. And this is a really major piece of work in which we make 91 recommendations about how the law should deal with sexual offences, which is, of course, a really important and really topical area of law. And it's an area in which it's a good example of how social values have changed over the years. Now, the government has already announced that they are going to accept our recommendations in two areas. One of them is to do with the law of consent. We have recommended that the law should change to emphasize that consent to sex needs to be active. A person needs to take active steps to ensure that they have consent. And that's an important change to the law. Another change is saying that stealthing should be a criminal offense. Stealthing means removing a condom secretly during sex without the consent of the other person. It's something that does happen, but at the moment it's not a criminal offense. And we have recommended that it should be, and the government has said that they are going to change the law. We've also made many other recommendations in this report about how the law relating to the justice system response to sexual offences should change. It's to do with things about the way that witnesses can be cross-examined in criminal trials, for example. It's also about whether there should be alternatives to criminal trials in cases involving sex offences. There are a great many recommendations there, and I do recommend that you go to the VLRC website where you will find that report, and it's a really interesting one. So I recommend that teachers and students do consider looking closely at that report because you'll find it a really interesting example of law reform. But we have made recommendations in many other areas over the years. The VLRC has done more than 40 inquiries in all kinds of areas: criminal law, civil law, matters such as abortion, adoption, even things like neighbourhood tree disputes, which is about what happens when neighbours argue about the trees in their garden. So you can see that the VLRC looks at a really wide range of legal issues. So that's all I'm going to say for now, but I do recommend that you go to the VLRC website and check out all of our reports, or some of our reports that are on there, and you'll also get a better idea of how the VLRC works. I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to meeting some of you next year.